Okay, so loops are an essential part of any program, and becoming a programmer is mostly a matter of mastering the idea of controlled repetition. So, loops are used to execute the same block of code again and again. So as long as a certain condition is true, the loop will continue to execute. So in PHP, we have the following loop types. We have the while loop, which loops through a block of code as long as the specified condition is true. Our DoWhile loop loops through a block of code once and then repeats the loop as long as the specified condition is true. Our for loops loop through a block of code a specified number of times. And with our for each loop, it can loop through a block of code for each element in an array or a database table. So a loop is something that takes time for a beginning programmer to really fully appreciate. For now, let's just think of loops as a tool that helps us to automate long, tedious, and repetitive tasks. So let's dive into our editor and take a look at some examples of these different types of loops. Okay, so back in our editor, let us create a new file and let's save it and name it loops.php. Alright, so first we'll take a look at our while loop. So, while loop. So the basic syntax of a loop is while condition and then code to be executed. Okay, so let us set up a variable. Let's call it x. Set it equal to 1. And inside our parentheses, we can specify our condition. So we can say x while x is less than or equal to 10. We would like to simply echo the number is x, and let's throw a new line for each number that's printed out. And now we're going to use our increment operator. Alright, so let's save this file, jump in our browser. Okay, so here you see we've printed out the number is 1, and as long as the condition is true, which is x is less than or equal to 10, then it prints the numbers 1 through to 10. Okay, so let's switch this example up a little bit. Alright, so let us comment out this block so we can start. So we can try another while loop. Let's say while x is less than or equal to 100, we'd like to echo the number is, and this time we are going to say x plus equals 10. So this is just a shorthand way to write x is equal to x plus 10. Alright, so it would be the same thing if you were going to subtract or multiply some values. This is just a shorthand method of writing that statement. Okay, so this and this are the same thing. So let us save this and test it out. Let's refresh, and we have an error. So let's see what's going on here. Okay, so it's on line 14, line 14. Alright, x plus equals 10. Okay, I think we're missing our variable sign here. Let's save this, test it out. Aha. Alright, so we get the number is 1 and it increments by 10 all the way up to 91. Okay, so remember, this is just a shorthand method for writing x is equal to x plus 10. Okay, so now let's take a look at an example of a do-while loop. So I'm going to move this code block here, and we can say looking at do-while, and the syntax for do-while loop: first you're going to have your do operator, and then inside you'll have your code to be executed, and then you have your condition. Alright, so this is your basic syntax for a do-while loop. Alright, so we already have x equal to 1, so let's continue to use x for our examples. So similarly to our while loop example, we can say, okay, x. Alright, first let's print number is. We can say while x is less than or equal to 5. So it's pretty similar to our while loop example. Only difference is the code will be executed first and then the condition will be checked. So let us save this. Let's refresh, and we have an error. Okay, so let's see what's going on with this. Alright, so when you get these errors in your PHP file, do not panic. Just take a moment out to read these errors, and usually it will point you exactly to the location of the error in your code. So here it is telling us that we have an undefined variable x in our loops.php file, and it is on line 21, and also another undefined variable error on line 23, and it's pretty much repeating that same error throughout the file. As this is a loop, it is just, you know, infinitely printing out this error. So let us take a look here, line 22 and line 23, and oh, right. So first let's fix up our, and here it seems I have the uppercase x. So remember, variables are case sensitive. So here on line 21 and 23 I had an uppercase x. So let's now save this and go back to our browser. Let's refresh. Okay, so now we get the same result as before. Alright, so in order to drive home the point that in a do-while loop the code executes before the check is done, let us change the value of x to 6. Let us move this code block here. Alright, so let us perform another do while. So we're gonna echo the number is x. Be careful to put the correct variable. We're going to increment x by 1, and then in our check we're going to say x is less than or equal to 5. Okay, so let us evaluate this statement for a second. This do while loop is saying we're going to print the value of x and increment it while x is less than or equal to 5. So if we hover over x, we can see that x is equal to 6 as we have set it to 6 up here. So what value do you expect to see pop up on your browser? Alright, well, let's save it and test it out. So when we refresh, we get the number is 6. So we see here that it will actually print the value of x, and then also if the condition is not true, it will just break out of that loop statement. Okay, so now let's take a look at a for loop example. And the syntax for the for loop is a little bit different. We can actually declare our variable and condition and how we would like to increment that variable in one statement. So we can do something like this for, and let's change our variable for y equals 0, y less than or equal to 100, we're going to increment y by 10. And as long as that condition is true, we will echo that value. Okay, so let's save this file and refresh our browser, and we can see here that our y has been set to 0, and our condition specifies that it be incremented by 10. So every time it evaluates x or y, in this case, if it is still less than 100, it's going to increment y by 10. Once this condition is true, it will perform whatever code, whatever function that you specify within this code block. So between